Welcome to the Soulish Podcast. My name is Whitney Apke, and I am the host of the Soulish Podcast. And it is such an honor and a privilege to be hosting this podcast, this platform, this community of people that are on their soul journeys and sharing in their soul journeys and developing and growing and expanding together is just awesome. And I love this podcast. I love this community and I love this platform. And I really had a heart from the beginning of March 2020, it dropped in me to start this podcast. And I had never even thought of doing a podcast. It wasn't something that was initially ever on my heart, but it dropped really heavy in my heart. And I just knew that I had to answer that call. And this has just been such a huge part of my journey in spiritual awakening and helping me to learn and develop, as well as give you guys the same content and encourage you and inspire you on your soul journey. And it's just been such an honor to do this with you. I think that's been one thing that I just wasn't expecting, is to be doing this alongside people in the community, to be encouraged together, and as we share in our journeys. And I love bringing on guests who are truth seekers, spiritual leaders, even health and wellness practitioners that have that understanding of the body, soul, spirit connection. And it's just been such a privilege to meet so many astrologers and Daniel, the past life regressionist, and to have people that are just thought leaders, people that actually sit down and take the time to think through things and to share their knowledge and their understanding, their wisdom with us. It's just been such an honor and privilege. It has enhanced my journey in such a huge way. And I know that it's enhanced yours as well. If you've been a part of the Soulish community from the beginning or halfway through, or it's been a couple episodes, I'm just so happy to have you here again for yet another episode. And I'm sure when you saw the title of this episode that you thought, like that sparked your curiosity, that made you want to click and listen. And so I'm so excited for that, because that means that this resonates with you in a real way. You can relate. And this is a subject that I know is going to help a lot of people, because it's been quite the journey for me, discovering my dependency and my insatiable desire to be appreciated and valued wherever I am, with whoever I am, no matter where I am and what I'm doing. And I realized that this was a huge pitfall in my leadership with people and how I led people, because I was an insecure leader leading people, as well as journeying through life and realizing that by focusing on that need to be respected, valued, appreciated, wanted, right? That actually led me on a different path than maybe what was necessarily intended. Now, I'm careful with that, because I do believe that all things work for the highest good and benefit of all. And I do believe that eventually, even though it may be a more painful, hurtful, dark path that I took, in some cases, harder, tougher, more challenging, it still led me to where I am today. And I still have that wisdom and that understanding. And it's what helped me learn those lessons, maybe the hard way. And I could have maybe learned them not the hard way. And what ended up happening is, because of life decisions, I ended up learning these hard lessons, and I ended up learning them over and over and over again. And it's so true that life will just smack you in the face until you wake up, until you look at it and you look at those things that are unhealed. And so let's dive into this subject, because I think it's so good. And I'm already feeling like I'm diving in, and I just want to get into this, into the depth of all of what encompasses us feeling our worth and our value, knowing our worth and our value. So before we get started, I wanted to just let you guys know I have an amazing membership that is a container for those that are wanting to connect deeply with themselves, with others, and with the energies around them. I really felt it on my heart to have a more private community space. And so I decided to go with patreon.com. And so you can find me at patreon.com/Whitney Apke, and you can look at the 2 tiers I have. I actually do weekly energy forecasts via cardology, and this is a new divination and new tool that is very in like kind to astrology, but it's very unique and very specific. It's very much science-based, math-based. It actually originated 5,000 years ago with the Magi and has been passed down secretly for thousands of years. And this divination was uncovered and discovered and basically researched thoroughly. And now we have the ability to learn more about it and to actually use it as another tool to help us connect deeply with ourselves and with the energies around us, and to have a better understanding of even our life purpose and why we incarnated here in this time and what we came here to learn, to grow, to experience. So it's really a really cool tool. And I've been studying it this year, and also have readings available if that's something that you're interested in and it piques your interest. But with the Patreon membership, I give weekly energy forecasts, and I also give the overview of the month and of the season, the quarter of the year. So it's really thorough, tons of understanding of the energies that are interacting with us, how that interacts with us, how it can manifest in your life, and basically what cards are you being dealt. So I do weekly energy forecasts. I also do, for the Awaken tier, the $20 tier, I do intuitive tarot and oracle card readings, which are first picked by yours truly. And then I allow my patrons to intuitively select the cards that are standing out to them, which helps my patrons to develop that connection to their inner wisdom, their inner guidance system, their intuition. And that helps develop their connection and understanding of like they are divinely guided, and inspired. And so I love that. One of my favorite things. And then I have a monthly healing circle for all patrons. And this is so much fun and so amazing. I love it. It is the best part of, I think personally, the Patreon membership, because the healing circle is such an amazing time. And I had my first healing circle last month during the full moon, and all of my patrons that attended had amazing shifts and experiences. And it was just a beautiful moment. I knew it would be. And I had been on my fast, as you guys know, if you've listened to previous episodes, I was on a 21-day fast, and that was day 20. So I was feeling very high vibe, and it was really awesome. So I just can't say enough about this container. And I just know if you feel a pull, if you feel a draw to check it out and to even become a patron, I know it's meant for you. And if it's not, that's totally okay. No hard feelings. I love you regardless. So it's all good. But I just wanted to make that available to you guys and let you know, because there's something about it when we tune into the energies around us, when we connect with our intuition, when we are in a community, in a safe space where we can develop together and grow together. There's just something so special about that. And this is so cheap, so affordable. I made it that way on purpose because I didn't want anybody to be turned away because of finances. And I know that there's a lot of programs out there and a lot of things, but I thought this membership is accessible. This membership is going to be super helpful. And I really believe you get more value for what you give in value. You get back 100 times fold. So I love it, and just wanted to make that available to you guys. And then I also have bookings as well for intuitive Reiki, for cardology, for spiritual coaching, for tarot and oracle card readings. So you can always DM me and let me know, hey, I'm interested, but this is what's going on in my life, not sure what I need. And I'm happy to be there to support you and to help you in making that decision. So just wanted to start with that, so you guys knew that and had that in your understanding in your sphere of what's available to you. So let's get into this. Let's dive into this. So I actually was on a live, was it last week? And this came up in the live. And I realized that this is such an important subject because it's something that we all experience at some point in our life. We all want to be valued. We all want to be appreciated, respected, honored. We all want to add value and to be valued, I think, is just a basic human need. And so it is not inherently wrong to want to be appreciated and valued, but where it can be harmful and hurtful for us in our journey or cause more challenges than maybe we necessarily need to experience in this life is when we depend on appreciation and value and acknowledgement, and we need that from other people in order to feel valued and worthy. And this is something I think I'll always preach on, I'll always talk on, I'll always just stand on my little soapbox and say, you're valued, you're worthy. And so I know you guys know that. And we can very much hear that and go, yeah, okay, and it just like kind of, flies over. But the problem with that flying over is that it never actually lands somewhere that is deep and meaningful and helps us to connect and to understand just how valuable we are and to understand our worth and our value and what we have to give. So I always kind of relate this back to church only because I grew up in church. And so that was my experience, was my church experience. But I know that if I had grown up in a different way, or maybe in a different religion or something like that, if I had chosen that for this life, I would have the same story in a different costume. So I preface that with this because I definitely appreciate my upbringing and I appreciate Christianity and what it did for me in my journey. But it was kind of the perfect container for me to feel fulfilled when I felt appreciated and valued for the volunteer work, for my voice, for whatever I gave of myself, my time, my energy. As long as I felt valued and appreciated, I could keep giving until I was bone dry. And so a lot of times I would say yes to things that were just crazy. Like I still can't believe I said yes to this, but I have no regrets. But I was, gosh, was I 22? I think I was 22 or 23, one of the two. Probably 23. And I was working for a private Christian school actually that I graduated from, and I was an executive assistant in the superintendent's office at this private school. And I was working really hard and long hours. It was a full-time job. And I was leading worship and I was a part of the young adults community at the church that I was attending. And I loved it. I definitely had some friends. I had just gotten over my first love, my breakup with my first boyfriend, which was quite an experience. And I've talked about him in previous episodes. And that experience really, because it was such a huge catalyst. But I was getting over it still, but I was pretty much over the hump of trauma, at least I thought. And I had gotten a apartment for the first time on my own, my first apartment ever, in San Jose, California, and right next to the school. So I was just a drive away. It was really awesome. I felt very adulty and wasn't living with my parents anymore and felt very adultish. And um, I basically was asked by one of the pastors, he was the young adult pastor at the time. I got approached in a really funny way. And there was actually there's a lot of pushback from those leaders that were currently in a position of, co-leadership with this pastor. They were kind of the leadership, the core leadership under the pastor of the young adults ministry. And some were okay with me and some were not. And there was a lot of transition happening. And so that caused a little bit more friction and chaos. And I was having flashbacks to when I went to school. I was in my last year and I had a similar experience where I applied for a position and then the current staff actually didn't want me a part of the staff. And so they tried to thwart and throw me out and they won, they got their way. And so I was feeling all these past feelings of that, of not being wanted, of not being valued. And it just grew this hunger in me even more to prove myself, to prove my worth, to prove my value. And I'm sure so many of you guys can relate to that. That's a common experience that I think we all have in different costumes, right? And so I think by me feeling rejected or not wanted, or having that feeling again of like there's a coalition, happening, a cohort against me coming on to this leadership team. And so I felt very insecure as a leader and just not worthy of it. Like, I'm in no place to do this. I know I'm a pastor's daughter. I know that this pastor also knows me because he knows my dad, who's the pastor. And so I felt like I had this like upper hand and kind of like, oh, it's a given that she's going to become a part of the leadership team. And I hated that because I just wanted to be wanted for me, not for who I am or who my dad is, and even my gifts. I just wanted to be wanted. Like, you're a cool person. You have a big heart. Like, come join our team. That's all I wanted. And I wasn't getting that. So I had these really stupid meetings. I even snuck my recording on because I just wasn't sure what was going to be said. So I wanted to record it to have my back, kept that for a while, never had to use it. But I just felt on guard. I felt very unsafe and in church, like the one place you should feel safe. And I felt like I was being ganged up on. And then other people were encouraging me, like, hey, you got this. You're meant for this. Like, this is meant for you. We need you. We want you. I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And so I followed the yellow brick road, so to speak, of encouragement and pull. And I got presented one night. I think was it like I think we had a Thanksgiving dinner or something like that we celebrated with the young adults, like a Friendsgiving kind of thing. And he sat me down at one of the tables and said, I need you. I need you to help. I need you to step in. And if you don't, I don't know what I'm going to do. So, of course, that puts this agenda on me and this hardship on me of, well, I don't want to let this pastor down. I actually have a kinship with this pastor. I've known him for many years or known of him for many years. But I really, he has a charisma. He makes you feel so loved and appreciated and valued. I didn't want to let him down. And so I was leading worship for the young adults as well as the main sanctuary or church gatherings on Sundays and any prayer meetings or healing meetings. I was always leading worship. And so he asked me to take over this house of women, 9 women, and he wanted me to step in as manager and to manage. But because I was getting so much pushback from leadership and he was getting so much pushback from the current leadership who were transitioning anyways, he said, come in as just one of the people, and then we'll transition you as it works. And there was current leaders in place, but apparently things were going down and it just was going down in flames and he needed me to be there. So what do? I actually, it cost me thousands of dollars to break my lease because California is a bitch when it comes to that. And I think it was like around like 2 or 3 grand just to break my lease. And so tons of money lost, right? Just so that I can transition into this home with 9 women who at first like me because they think that I'm only one of them and I'm just one of the girls. And obviously I'm a leader in the community. So there was that, but I wasn't a leader over the house. And so, so it was like, oh, you're coming in. Oh, you're a part of the group. And worked out perfectly and everybody was happy. Maybe it wasn't Friendsgiving because I think it was actually in August. So it must have just been a potluck of some sort that we had. But anyway, details. Basically, I came in and within, I think I think it was like a month, all hell broke loose. And 2 of the leaders had to be removed from leadership for their own personal choices, and I'll leave it at that. So don't DM me about it because I'm not going to share it because it's their private matter and they're way past it now. And so there's no point in bringing it up. But I don't agree with it now, and I didn't agree with it then. But because of the beliefs that we're indoctrinated in, you think, oh, okay, this is, I guess, the right thing. But I didn't like how it was being handled. I felt like it was torture. I just felt like it was absolute torture. It was all about shame and guilt but heal and feel forgiven, feel the forgiveness of God, but wallow, in your decisions and have your noses rubbed in it is basically what ends up happening with the model that this church had and the leadership the pastors had. So it was really sad to me. And I look back on it and I kick myself. Like I wish that I had been more, I guess, more healed because, or I don't know, just understood what I know now, and I think that's also part of what we often feel in life. I'm going to try not to cry because I cried enough on Yasmin's episode. You guys can see it. But I think because it's something that still hurts me, even though I don't have regrets. I've forgiven myself for going along with this plan. I think it still really hurts my heart because I played a part in it. Even though I wasn't a main part, I played a part in this. And I believed I was doing the right thing then. I know that I wasn't now. If I knew then what I know now, I would have done things really differently, and I would have advocated for them in a way that I didn't. And I was very supportive, very loving. I was there for them whenever they called, and they did call. And and just was fully supportive of all these ladies for 3 years. So all that to say, gosh, basically I had to move rooms and I had to move into the main room, the master suite of this house, because that's where the leaders sleep. And also, that was part of the plan to separate these two women. And so, because they had conflict and all of that. And so we had to separate them, but yet they were still allowed to be in the house, because I think the hearts of the pastors were to not completely lose them. They didn't want to lose them by, excuse me, by kicking them out. And so I think because of that, they were allowed to stay in, and it was their choice. But I think that that actually in the end did more damage and was more traumatic and more hurtful. Um, but who knows, right? Um, but that caused a lot of conflict with me, between me and these ladies. And here I've lost thousands of dollars to do this. I'm being put in a really difficult situation that I was not given any prior knowledge to. He didn't tell me what it was that he needed help with or why he needed me there, just that I was going to transition into leadership at some point, right? Hey, I need you. I don't have a strong leader there, but he knew what was going on, and he didn't say, he didn't tell me. And this had been handled by prior leadership as well. They knew about it. And so it was just like, why didn't I get everything when I came in? Like, if you want me to lead these women, why wasn't I given any kind of heads up? Um, so it was a shit show, to be honest. But I got a lot of looks, and I definitely had a change in frequency and vibration, we'll say, with these women, because women are intuitive. We're very connected. So we sniff things out like crazy. And they knew, like, even though nothing was being communicated to any of the other women in the house, they knew something had happened. But I got the shit end of the stick, because I'm the one basically moving in. Couldn't stay in my room. I would have stayed in my room otherwise. And so now I look like this ladder climbing bitch. And so now the girls don't know how to relate to me. Now they feel like I am conniving, cunning, what's her real true agenda here? And I tried to gather them together, and I tried to bring back that connection, that bond that we had had previously. And it just seemed like everything I did just made them more wary of me. It made them more conflicted, and it also made them more untrusting, if that makes any sense. So there was just a total lack of trust. And the other leader that I had there was new to Christianity and new to that lifestyle, and was transitioning into the lifestyle of the Christian lifestyle, and was not having an easy time. She did not have an easy year either. And so she was my only person, like, there, that understood me, that saw behind closed doors, that we had the private conversations. She also knew everything that was happening. So she was the only one that really didn't judge me. And I think she advocated for me. Mostly, I'm not sure, what was said, like, privately to the girls, but it was clear that nothing I did was helpful. And they didn't know any of, the sacrifice of me even just doing this, and what it took. And, they didn't know, and they didn't need to know, and it wasn't helpful to them, but they didn't know my heart. They didn't see my heart. And so they found me to be really emotionless. And what they didn't know was that behind closed doors was where I laid it all out. And I just wanted to be strong for them, because I knew that this was really hard, and this was a really difficult year. And so I wanted to be available. I didn't want to pour my emotions and my concerns and my worries on them. I wanted to be a safe space for them to unload onto me, because that's why I'm here. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? And again, as an insecure leader, I so needed their validation, their value, their, appreciation. I needed to know that they respected me, that they honored me, that they trusted me. And I was super insecure because of the whole situation and circumstance, as well as just I had already been struggling with it. And the reason why I said yes to this was because I felt valued, wanted, appreciated, and needed. And so I said yes to this because I needed to know that I could live up to that and that I was worthy of this opportunity. And so I'm going to step into it. Right. But it was coming from, it felt like that, but it was actually coming from a place of not feeling worthy, of not feeling value and feeling like I had to earn it. Does that make sense to anybody? So that's that's where I was actually coming from, was that mindset that you have to do in order to be, that you have to earn it. And trust, I think, is earned. Like, trust has to be earned. Love is free, but trust is earned. But when it comes to our worth and our value, we don't need to earn it. It comes in the package of when we are born. We come in this world worthy. We come in this world valuable. Like, we come in this world not lacking anything, and deserving of love, deserving of kindness, deserving of compassion. And so I felt like I had to earn it. And so I was doing my damnedest goodest job at earning appreciation, value, worth. And I ran myself into the fucking dirt. And many nights I couldn't sleep. I did everything I could do to sleep. I even took sleeping aids. Anything happened, I would fly off the rail and just would get so stressed out. I was never like angry, but I would get so stressed out because I felt like all 9 women's lives are dependent on me. If anything happens to them in this house, they could sue me, they can sue the church. Even though they're adults here, I know we didn't sign any release of liability. And then here I'm dealing with this situation, which is actually like, anybody can say anything. Anybody can say she said, he said, or she touched me, or she did this, or she, told me this. And so I felt like I was put in such a legal, like, not a good legal place, because here I live with these women, and there's such a dynamic. And how can I trust these women when they don't even trust me? And I don't feel like they even have my best interest, that they kind of want me out. Um, and so I just stuck with it. And then, of course, another year came, and we had new leadership, and that pastor that had originally asked me to be in the leadership ended up leaving. And then a new pastor came over and took on the shit show himself. And I tried to explain things. I tried to help him understand. And he ended up bringing in 2 leaders that weren't really integrated into the church leadership. And they were not healthy leaders themselves. And they ended up basically taking over and pushing me out. So what ended up happening from the beginning happened eventually later on. And then I'm left having given every ounce of me to these women, being up for hours with them, sometimes counseling them, loving on them, holding them as they cry, coming through for them whenever I needed to. It didn't matter where or when I was there. If they caught themselves in a bad situation, I was there for them. And they knew they could call me whenever. And some of them did. Some of them were just skeptical of me the whole time and just walled up and didn't trust me because of what had happened and what they speculated I was doing and whatever. And so it was really heartbreaking. But it's funny to me that it ended up being that way, that then I still even got pushed out after, I did everything that I did. I was not valued. I was not appreciated. It was said with words. It was not demonstrated in actions. And I just basically put my hands up and said, sure, have it all. And then they ended up closing the program. So I think they just felt like it was too much liability. It was too difficult, and they didn't know how to manage it. They didn't even understand the vision of it. And so it basically dissolved, and then I was left just leading worship and still feeling, like very much like I had no grace for anything. I had no energy for anything, but music was kind of my saving grace and was the place that I felt like I was filled up. But I still had the same issue of needing to feel valued and needing to feel respected, appreciated, loved, wanted. And I wasn't getting that in any kind of relationship. I was single for the whole bit from my first relationship to my last relationship I was in. I was single for 5, 6 years before I met my last partner. And I just had no desire for it, really, because I wasn't meeting anybody that was even felt like an alignment, or like they understood me or really wanted me. Some people I felt like were attracted to me because they see me on stage and they hear my voice, and it wasn't ever like an authentic expression of interest. And so I saw so many women get, dates and then eventually engaged and married, and it was just a beautiful process to witness. But I had no one. And now I didn't even have the girls, because as soon as that ministry dissolved, even though I had left or been pushed out, um, it was just horrific. Like no one would even like look at me. And if they looked at me, it was like, I hate you. It's like I don't like you. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to talk to you. And it's like so sad. Like, dude, like I spent hours with you. And I even had one of the girls, actually, my second, I guess you could say, my leader, my assistant manager. She actually did a few things that were really hurtful in that third year of being in leadership, but not really in leadership. It was kind of a weird transition, but she ended up doing things like lying so that I couldn't join a group of women meeting together and hanging out together. And I was so badly wanting to be involved and wanting to have friendship again, because I had had a taste of that from the very beginning of the first year, like the first month of the first year that I was there. And I knew these women were beautiful women, inside and out, and were just so much fun to be around. And I wanted to be a part of that so bad. And then she kind of worked it where I was lied to, and I guess the host of that night figured it out and let me know. And I had a couple of the girls who were also in on it that wanted to be a part of it and were trying to make it happen, then try to apologize to me. They were afraid that I thought ill of them. But I kind of knew, and figured and just understood, like this is humans being humans. It doesn't feel good though. And especially after all the sacrifice and after everything I did, it felt really hurtful. And so I just was left with like this gaping wound of, here I followed this journey. I lost thousands of dollars to break a lease that I had just gotten, and all for what, so that I could feel valued and worthy, so that I could be appreciated and wanted and needed, and fulfill that and fill that need. Like, when did it ever dawn on me in this process that maybe I'm not meant to do that. Maybe that's not meant for me. Maybe that's not where I'm actually really needed. And this person just sees, oh, this person's willing, so hopefully I can rope him in, right? And I just didn't have that perspective because I was so desperate. And I know that so many people have that in the workplace. And this is actually translated in the workplace as well, where my work and what I do, and um, the excellence or the level of excellence of my work or accuracy, um, directly is, reflects my value, my worth, and what I bring to the table and to the team. And there is an element of that that's true, but I was so insecure that even just the slightest mistake would just wreck me for like an entire day, if not an entire week. And I would just be reeling, and that would actually cause me to miss more things and make more mistakes because I was so consumed and I was so afraid. And then I wasn't looking with fresh eyes on things, and I'm naturally detail oriented. So it's like for me to not be naturally functioning in my natural function. And some people are like excellent organizational people. They can just see something and just flip things so that they work out. And some people just have amazing business sense and they're just business savvy. But if we ever get into that place where we need to feel valued and respected and honored and wanted and needed, we don't realize that we already are valuable. Like, this is who I am. I add value. I don't need it from you. Like, sure, people can express their gratitude, they can express their appreciation, but that should just be the overflow, right? It shouldn't be what fills you up. And I think that was a hard lesson for me so many times, whether it was when I was in college and I felt like, oh, having this position gives me respect and honor, and I'll be appreciated for the work that I do. And look, I'm helping the world. I'm helping thousands of teenagers come every summer to the summer camp. And I'm helping students as they're developing their youth ministry skills, and youth specialty skills. And I'll be a part of that. Like, how cool is that? How fun. Like, I want to be a part of that. And I want to feel valued. I want to add value, which is not a bad thing, but it's that thought of like, I lack, therefore I need to do in order to be, right? And it's sneaky. It's very sneaky. And sometimes it's hard to realize that or to see that within ourselves, right? It's not easy. I feel like it's very sneaky, just like self-rejection is very sneaky because it comes as you're just protecting yourself, right? You're just making sure that you see things for how they really are. But really, you're actually self-rejecting before you can be rejected because you don't want to get hurt. It's easier to self-reject and to hurt than to be rejected and hurt. And I think the same thing goes for that. It is a need that we have to be valued, but we have to know that we are already valuable. And if the two, come together, then it's a perfect marriage, right? It's a perfect match because you know your value and people are acknowledging your value. Then in both instances, you don't lack. You don't need people's approval or their appreciation or their validation to feel valued. But that's not an easy thing to identify sometimes. And it sometimes takes really hard life lessons. And for so many years, I blamed everyone else for what had happened. I didn't see that I led myself down this path, and ultimately it benefits me, right? I'm no longer an insecure leader. I know my worth. I know my value. I don't need other people to tell me what I'm worth in order to feel valued, or valuable or worthy, like worthy to be on a podcast and to be a host. Who the hell am I? Right? I'm just Whitney Apke. Like, who am I to do this and to inform and to love on you guys and have this container? But I know my worth, and I also know my purpose, and I know why I came here. And this perfectly matches and is in line with that. It's aligned. And that's what we need to remember, is what is in alignment, with us. And those things that I had said yes to that ended up being painful lessons. And I ended up getting even looked at, the person that was with me through it all and knew behind scenes and behind closed doors, she had disrespected and hurt me the most by her actions of trying to exclude me, kick me out, banish me, I guess, from what she perceived as her personal friend group, which we were all friends within the community. She purposefully excluded me. And then she basically was blaming me for her pain when all I ever did was completely support her. And so clearly she had unhealed things. There were things in her that she needed to deal with, and she was taking it out on me, which is fine. I think I've always been a scapegoat in a sense. And so I'm used to it, but I didn't expect it from somebody that really truly knew my heart. And I think that's what killed. And what's cool is that about 10 years later, we reconciled. She actually ended up sending me a DM, and I DM'd her back, and it was lovely and beautiful. I think there are some things that you can never take back, and we learn that. So I've learned that hard lesson, that there's some bridges that I burned that I wish I had never burned, but I burned them in pain, right? I burned them when I was hurting, when I was at my weakest. And I felt like I just had to burn the whole world around me in order to feel safe, because then nobody can come after me, right? No, nothing bad can happen to me. And I just built a wall up. So I get it when people do the same thing, because I've been there and I understand that. And I have compassion on them, because I know if you're doing that, you must be really hurting and you have real pain, you know? And we all experience that at different times in our lives and at any level. So say this all to say, it's not that nothing gets redeemed in the end, or that you can learn that lesson, but I don't believe that I had to walk through that in order to learn that lesson. I could have learned that lesson long ago. But because I didn't learn that lesson, it actually guided me into getting presented with the perfect opportunity to learn. And I still didn't even learn after that, and had it showing up back in my career as I was trying to pursue a professional career after ministry did not work out. And so then I went into the professional world, became a banker of all things, and that was a horrible fucking environment. And my own boss was trying to make it that I stole money, and I know I didn't steal money, and I knew that my counts all matched up and there was no money missing from my drawer, but I was getting blamed for it. And so I just I just left, because it was like, here we go again. And yet I needed their approval. I wanted their approval. I wanted to feel a valued member of the team, of that office. And it continued to happen in career, in friendships, and when I went back into church and was still a part of church. God, it just kept coming up and up and up and up and up, until finally it dawned on me, this is happening because I keep saying yes to things, because I have such an insatiable desire to be valued, to be appreciated. And if someone says that they have a need, I'll do it. I'm that chick. I'm the yes chick. I will always be the yes chick, right? Is how I would viewed myself, and that I couldn't let anything go that was an opportunity to show what I have to offer. And I found that also in my relationships too, my partnerships, and that was also coming up there, that I felt like I needed to prove that I was a good partner or a good person, or in all instances. And so this is a sneaky thing that we can all feel at different times in our life, or maybe it's also part of your kind of like life journey, of one of your life lessons of understanding your worth and your value. And I just want to now give you just a couple tips and tricks as to how to acknowledge this. So I always sit on a decision now before I say yes. So I don't care where it's at. If it's at work and they're presenting me with a new project opportunity that is outside of the scope of influence of what my job description says and the projects that I might take on, and I'm not getting paid more for this, but they're just wanting me to step in, right, and do it. I love how that always happens. When you're salaried, they just assume you're just going to do whatever they want you to do. And I would say, yeah, cool. Let me think about that, because that actually means that I'll be working longer hours and without an increase in pay. Because you say that I'm not going to get a stipend, or I'm not going to get a raise or anything for taking on this long-term project. And so I need to make sure that I have work-life balance. And so I need to sit on it, and I will let you know tomorrow, or by the end of this week, and I learned that I had to sit on things and not just say, yeah, I'll do it, because they have a need. And so that's one thing that I put that up for myself as a barrier, so that I could take the time to sit on it and to see if it resonated, if I had peace with the decision, if I had lack of peace, if it caused stress and anxiety within me. I was able to kind of check it out and check how I actually really truly felt about it, because I didn't know how I felt about it unless I sat on it, right? So that's one thing that I've done that has changed the game, whether it's been in friendships, relationships, even parties or hangouts or groups. I've had to, even with that, basically weigh things and just say, hey, I'll let you know. I have a lot going on, but I will let you know. When do you want me to let you know when, if I can make it or not? When do you need to know by? Because I want to be considerate. And so I just realized that me saying maybe, you know, basically the maybe chick instead of the yes chick actually created this beautiful boundary where I got to honor my energy and I got to honor where I was feeling in that moment, and in that time, in that season in my life, because there's, seasons for everything. So sometimes you're in a season where you're busting ass, and you really actually don't need to be taking on anything else, where you don't need to be around a certain group of people, where you know that you're going to be probably more giving energy out, more supportive than you are receiving. And so sometimes, like, I mean, I'm kind of an in between. I think I'm 48% introverted, 52% extroverted on my last test that I took. And so I literally have to gauge it because I love hanging around people. It is like my favorite thing. I love hanging around people. People fill me up, but sometimes I'm in an energy where I am not being filled up by being around people. It actually is extremely draining and it isn't honoring my energy. So a lot of times I end up feeling like, obligated to go and to show face. And what will they think if I don't? Right. And so I've learned the hard way when I've said yes to something by feeling pressured, or how will I be perceived? Right. It comes all the way back to that, like, of being valued, being appreciated, being wanted, being needed, and getting a party invitation, like that feels really needed. Like, oh, they want me there. They want me a part of it. They want me included. And so automatically I'd say yes, because I want to be included. I want to be wanted, and I can't say no, right? Learned so many lessons. So setting up a boundary and just saying maybe, and saying I need to sit on it, and you think that you're not going to get respected. You actually get more respect when you do that, because they understand that you're not a pushover and you're not the yes man or yes woman. So they know that they can't just drop something on you and you're going to cave to the pressure. You actually get more respect, even if you feel like you get pushback on it, or they're annoyed that you're not just giving a yes. They actually do respect you more because you respect yourself. They respect you. It's just a natural occurrence. The other thing is, for big decisions, or decisions that make me feel like, whoa, that's really weighty, like that's going to drastically change my future, my this year, this month, I end up sitting on those things even more. And I ask myself, why am I considering this? I know my path. I know what I'm here to do now more than ever. And so why am I considering this? What is pulling me to say yes? And I ask that because a lot of times I end up realizing that, oh, I feel like if I say yes to this, that I will get, maybe a lot of applause, or a lot of followers, and I'm just throwing things out there, but, a lot of recognition, acknowledgement, value, worth, appreciation. I'm realizing that I will get that. And that's why this is drawing me, because of the opportunity of being more seen or more heard. Right. And so that's not a good place. That's not the place to say yes to something, that is not the place to say yes. That is not a good reason, but it feels like a really good reason. Right. So oftentimes I would see and I would check, and sometimes it was because I really felt a passion. I felt like, even if it was a tiny, like, little flicker of a flame, that it was like, oh, I feel energized by that. Like, just that thought alone is sparking this passionate desire to do that, to experience that. So if that's the case, then that's a good reason to consider it. But I would even go deeper than that, and now I definitely go deeper than that. I don't do anything without hearing from my soul spiritual team, my guides, my angels, my ancestors. I ask for signs every time, and I just weigh things out. I don't care how long it takes. If it's a dream, if it's numerology, angel numbers, if it's a specific type of butterfly, flower, bird. I ask for just any kind of sign, anything. So what's funny is as I've been stepping into kind of a new role in the last month, all of a sudden I had bees around me like crazy. And it was actually when I was just launching my Patreon membership. And bees kind of make me nervous. I've never been stung, so I don't really have like a reason to fear bees. But it's just kind of unnerving when they come right up into your face, when they buzz next to your ear, when they come onto your clothes or onto your hand, or, it just is kind of scary because they got that stinger and you just don't know like how they're going to react. So as I'm meditating outside on my patio, all of a sudden my eyes are closed. I'm in this like total Zen moment, just totally connecting to the universe. And all of a sudden, like right into my face. And poor thing, I smacked it. It was like a, like moment. and I accidentally smacked the poor bee and it hit the wall and fell down, but it wasn't dead. It lived. But I felt so bad because I was like, I never want to hurt anything intentionally. It just scared the shit out of me. But all of a sudden I had bees around me all the time. Like I had no food. I would go without perfume. I even didn't put hair products in my hair. I was like, what is attracting these bees to me? Like, this is scaring me so bad. And I'm getting bees caught in my hair. I'm getting all of this stuff happening. And it's like constant bees. Like I can't go outside and not get a couple bees like curious about me. So one day my neighbor, because she saw I got into a panic because a bee got caught in my hair. I had my hair fluffy tossed to the side. You guys have seen it on the podcast. And a bee got caught in my hair and she's like, oh, just 1 second. And she like goes, I'm like, what? Like I just like, what is happening? What is happening? And then I hear it in my hair. So then I'm like trying not to freak out, but I am, I'm like, like clenching. And she goes, oh, okay, it's free. It's gone. I'm like, okay. And then I just bolt. I still bolt, even though I have nothing to bolt about. She's like, you're fine. Don't freak out. So then she looked it up. She's like, I wonder what the spiritual meaning of bees are. And it was totally stepping into empowerment, the goddess energy, abundance, and not just working hard and representing working hard, but yielding everything that you do, that you touch, yields abundance and comes to fruition is a Christian word, which just means that it comes into it becomes prosperous. It becomes, you become wealthy. It basically adds value to your life, right? It sustains you. It's something that is provision for you, right? So as you're working hard and being dedicated and not giving up and working hard, that provision is going to come, abundance is going to come, prosperity is going to come. And so that was really interesting that during the season, and it still happens every now and again, but not as much. It's so crazy. I was even on my fast. I'm like, I'm not even eating nothing that they would want. Like, I mean, they like fruit, but I'm not eating fruit outside, and when I did, I regretted it because then I had to ward off bees from my, peach or my plum and be like, it's my plum, my peach. And I would have to just bolt with Winston and just run to try to get away from them. So all that to say, like I've asked for signs, and that was such a clear confirmation for me that I had been asking for. I didn't ask for bees to confirm it for me, but I had asked just for confirmation that I'm stepping into a new role of authority and empowerment. And I'm purposefully, I know I'm ready for it. And I know that this is an up level. And I just want to confirm that I'm on the right path. Again, because of my painful experiences, I don't want to do anything. So I'm like, reveal it in me. If it's still there, get it out, show me, and I'll heal that again in whatever way I need to and release. But I always ask for signs and confirmation. And that was a huge confirmation for me. Even though I didn't really enjoy it very much, it was super confirming when she read the spiritual description of bees and bees being around you. I had bees coming into my house. I had bees. Oh, it was just, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. I wasn't happy with that. I was like, could we have done something else? You know, um, not so unnerving, but I'm sure my spiritual team just got a kick out of that. I felt like I could almost hear the snickers, all in love and good and fun. But I think they, it was like, perfect, let's do this. This is going to be some entertainment. um, so all that to say, I think setting up that boundary, and instead of being a yes person or just saying no to everything because you're afraid, I think being a maybe person and giving yourself time to honor your energy and sit with it and really say yes with wisdom and understanding of where you're saying yes from. And then asking for direction and confirmation and really sitting on that and being okay with sitting on it until you hear, because oftentimes the process of sitting with something is exactly what you need. So a lot of people get really upset when they feel like they don't hear immediately or they don't get it confirmed immediately. Sometimes the process of you sitting in something is needed. So that's why it's not being confirmed to you immediately, because you need to sit in it. And sometimes the process of trusting that you're divinely guided, trusting that you're divinely protected, and that you do hear, sometimes that process of coming into that and really sitting with that and wrestling with that and basically putting the stick in the mud of, do I or do I not believe that I am connected, that I can hear, that I am divinely guided and inspired, sticking that stick whichever one. Sometimes it means that we are picking and choosing, right? And we are making a decision from a core belief place. And so that's why it's so important. What do you actually believe? Because life will test it again and again and again and again until you are firm, and you don't need to be asked or tested again. You will still be tested. So that's another way for you to not be tested in this way anymore, is to actually heal whatever needs to be healed and to go to a core belief. Maybe whatever, I always ask all of my clients in spiritual coaching sessions, what is that anchored down into? What is the memory that is connected to? What is the past experience? What is the thought? What is the belief? What is the feeling? And oftentimes we get down to the root of it. I had a client too that she realized that, what was it that she realized? She had a total realization. Oh, what was it? I think it was around not being enough. And that she just always felt not good enough. But when it hit her, it was like, whoa, boom, click. And that was it. That's all she needed. And she was like, got it. I see it. And I haven't had to have a session with her since, because she just rolled with it as soon as it came to her, and it ignited that aha moment, as Oprah says. It struck her in such a cool, awesome, real way. And it was her ticket to freedom. Because then once she realized, I have a core belief, no matter what anyone says, I could get appreciation, like a gallery of appreciation. People could erect a monument in my honor, and I would still believe that I'm not good enough. When she realized that, it was like, boom, boom, see the lie, see what that is. It's not real. It's not true. So I think a lot of times when we look down and see, what is that hooked into? Like, where's that pull coming from? Is that because you feel not good enough? Is that where it's anchored into? Or is it anchored into, I will always lack, right? Things are never going to work out for me. I'm going to get the rug pulled out from under me, right? Just when I get my hopes up, just when everything is working out, rug pulled up under you, and boom, you're on your ass, with nothing, lost everything. There are people that exist that way and constantly feeling like they are going to get the rug pulled out from under them, that the ground is going to open up beneath their feet and swallow them, and that's an awful fucking place to be. But how we get over that is we see, what is that anchored into? Sometimes it's not even something that is of this incarnation from us directly. Sometimes it is something that is karmic, past life related, right? Past life karma related that you're dealing with now. Sometimes it's ancestral. It's something that's passed down to you in your DNA, because that is actually stored in your DNA, is what your past ancestors have experienced, the hardships they've experienced, and why you feel like you're never going to have enough, that you're always going to be living paycheck to paycheck, wondering if that paycheck is even going to come. So it's so important that we actually sit in things and we find the hook. And what is that? What is that anchored into, right? What is that hooked into? And it's tugging on you and bringing you back into a place that is not healthy, is not from a place of truth, is not from a place of love or wisdom, and isn't from spirit, isn't divinely inspired. It's actually lowering your vibe, literally, right? It's causing you to doubt yourself, to self-reject, to sabotage, to also reject others and isolate. And so it's really, really, really good. I think those are my top three: is setting up boundaries. That's the first one. And then the second one is sitting in being divinely guided and inspired. And maybe it's not your guides, right? Maybe it's not your ancestors, or you don't feel connected in that way, but you just feel like that gut instinct, right? It could be that. That is how you're divinely guided. And I'd encourage you to check out your human design, because that also kind of gives you an understanding of how you're guided, of how you hear, where you make your decisions from. For me, it's my solar plexus, it's my gut, it's my instinct, my intuition. I'm very instinctual, and a lot of times my instinct switches and flips, and I just have to trust, even though it doesn't make sense maybe with what's going on. I have to trust that I'm hearing correctly, that I'm being guided by what my spirit knows, right? By what my soul knows, because that transcends time. My spirit can see the future, right? My spirit knows what's coming up ahead. And so a lot of times I'm making a decision that doesn't quite make sense in the moment, but it will later. And there's been so many times where I've been so grateful that I listened to that instinct, to that gut, to my soul team, my spirit team, whoever it is, whatever it is. If it's God for you, if you're, if you're a Christian or a Catholic, it's God, or it's one of the saints, or maybe you're Muslim and it's Allah. If it's if you're Buddhist, Hindu, it doesn't matter. If you're just spiritual, it doesn't matter what you believe. It's just coming from an authentic place of understanding that you are divinely guided, and your team will speak to you however they need to speak to you. Angels, guides, ancestors, spirit, God, universe, source will speak to you however it needs to speak to you for you to hear. So that's in whatever way you need, right? So a lot of times before I was getting angel numbers, I was getting scriptures, and I would wake up at a certain time, and then I would hear a number oftentimes, or see a number in my mind. And then, so I'd see that number in my mind, and then I'd look at my clock and it's 5 and then 3:15. And so I'm like, oh, that's Deuteronomy 3:15. Sure enough, it'd be like, boom, like a scripture that is like perfect for what I'm going through, super encouraging, super uplifting and inspiring. And that's how I was divinely guided for so many years, like all throughout my childhood, high school, and college, and after college, until all of a sudden I learned about angel numbers, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Didn't think anything of it. All of a sudden I started having dreams with tons of angel numbers. I started Googling things. I'm like, okay, so there was a number 219, and then 316, and 336. And then there was like all these different numbers, and I'm looking them up, and they all lead into a story that I'm just like, can't make it up. And so you just have to know you're divinely guided, inspired. So being a maybe person, setting up that boundary, honoring your energy, trusting that you're divinely guided and inspired by whatever and whoever you believe and trust in, yourself included in that. And 3, finding the anchor, going down deep. Why do you feel a pull to this? Why is this pulling you forward into going down that path? What is it that is pulling you? And evaluating that, checking that out, taking the time. Don't just do it for 5 seconds. Take the time to do it, because that will show you what actually comes up. And I think that's also in part of the being divinely guided, is a lot of times my soul team will bring something up as I'm sitting on something of, why am I wanting to make that decision? And then they'll bring it up, and I'll go, oh, I didn't see that. Thank you for that. I will address that and heal that right now. And then I'm like, cool. And then sometimes it's coming from a really authentic place, and it's part of my purpose and calling and my destiny. And I'm like, fan-fucking-tastic. Let's do it, you know? So I'm like, woo, forward march. And then I feel great. So I just want to encourage you guys, man, this life can be rough and challenging. And it's even more challenging when we have that insatiable desire to be valued, appreciated, respected, wanted, needed, loved, right? And we feel like we have to earn it in order to have it or be it. That's the hang up, you know? And so I just want to encourage you guys to have those three barriers, those three conditions that you set up for yourself, so that way, when you make a decision, you're making it from a place of wisdom, setting up a boundary, honoring yourself, honoring your energy, not feeling pressured by anything, because you know everything is meant for your good and benefit, and you're going to find out exactly what that is, even if it's the process of saying maybe, not yes or no. But having a limbo state, a transition state, is often uncomfortable, but that is where a lot of things, precious things, get spoken to us, get shown to us, and get formed within us. So that's a great process, but it can feel very fiery, very much like you are being molded, you know, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. And then also, you know, really leaning into your guidance system, inner guidance system, outward guidance system with your angels, your source, spirit, God, universe, you know, whoever you align with. And then also really evaluating, where am I coming from with this? Why do I feel a pull, or why do I not? Oftentimes we're totally feel discredited. We feel not worthy. And so we just say no, because we don't want to disappoint, and we don't want to disappoint ourselves. And eventually that's hurtful, right? So we just rather stay small than get big. So that's another thing too. I forgot to mention that. So I just want to encourage you guys with that. And I hope that this has been encouraging for you, inspiring for you, giving you little nuggets of wisdom from my personal experiences and the things that I've experienced and learned the hard way, and sometimes the easy way. And this was just a hard lesson that came from a place of such a big heart, you know, such a big heart for people and wanting to serve people. But it was coming out of a place of twistedness, because it was coming from a place of insecurity and lack. So anytime we can have a great big heart and great intentions, but when we are twisted, right? That's actually what wicked means. That's why, like, Wiccan furniture, right, comes from that same root word of twisted. It doesn't actually mean evil. It just means it's twisted. And so therefore, instead of being right, you know, not twisted up, something that is good can be twisted and can be turned wicked. And then it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work how it's supposed to work, and how it's supposed to be an ebb and a flow of giving and receiving, openness, right? Vulnerability and honesty, and being received and being given back to, and having that exchange is something that's so important. But we can't do that when we have things that are unhealed in us that cause our intentions to be wicked, to be twisted up, and not flowing properly. So I just want to encourage you guys with that. Sit in it, you know, lean in, tune in, connect, because you will be guided by that, and you will end up not experiencing painful lessons. You'll actually have foresight and wisdom, and we'll see a lesson before it comes, and we'll get to be, you know, get that opportunity to be triggered in that way, or to respond to what's coming up within you without even being triggered, right? And then you don't have to learn that lesson the hard way, like I have so many times. And so I want to save you from that as much as I can. I can't save you completely, because it's all your choice. And I just want to encourage you with that again, there's no judgment. Don't be critical of yourself. Don't be judgmental of yourself. Whatever you choose, you are meant to experience, and it will benefit you in the end. Even though it may be painful, but it will benefit you. All things work for your good and your highest benefit, and for the benefit of all. I love you all so much. I'll see you guys here next week.